I have to give Trent Baalke a lot of credit. Day one of free agency on paper was really, really good. Once he got lined up for an encore. Welcome everybody to JG9 News, where we talk all things NFL all the time. I'm Jared Garrett, representing the 904 from the 602, and today we're talking about the Jaguars in the second day of the legal tampering period, the final day before the official start of the new league year. I want to talk about the expectations for the Jaguars today, what I expect to have happen, what you can expect to have happen, and what you can expect to not have happen today. So, Jacksonville, day one of free agency, legal tampering period. They did a lot of moves, made a lot of good moves. Gabe Davis, they got him from the Buffalo Bills. He will probably be replacing Zay Jones on the outside, which I think is a massive upgrade there. On top of that, new return man Jamal Agnew out. Devin Duvernay from the Baltimore Ravens, the two-time Pro Bowler, is in. Improvements in the secondary. Darnell Savage coming from the Green Bay Packers. Probably means you have a secondary starting five now of Tyson Campbell, Ronald Darby, who just was acquired from the Baltimore Ravens after a very good season there. I know he's a veteran, but we'll see what he has left in the tank. He was very good last season. Darby, Campbell on the outside, Antonio Johnson lined up in the slot, and then you probably have Savage and Cisco as your safeties. On top of that, Mitch Morse from the Buffalo Bills. A lot of former Bills coming over. They get him as the new starting center on the team. And, of course, the whole kicker debacle with Will Lutz. Thought he was going to be the kicker for the next 3 years, but turns out he's going back to Denver. He changed his mind. Still a pretty productive day in free agency. I'd give it a solid B+. I think Trent Baalke did a lot of good stuff. I've criticized Baalke a lot for obvious reasons. I criticized him for a lot of the moves he made this offseason. The Mac Jones trade I was not crazy about. Obviously, the whole butchering of the Josh Allen franchise tag, Calvin Ridley situation. Not crazy about that. But day one of free agency, I have to give credit where credit is due. Baalke did some really good moves. So what does he have lined up for day two? What can I expect for day two? There's three big questions I think the Jaguars will answer or need to address on day two. Number one, what do they do at kicker? What on earth do the Jaguars do at kicker? Obviously, they can't bring back Brandon McManus. He is now a Washington Commander, and based on the coaching staff not bringing him back, based on the front office not bringing him back right away, the writing was always on the wall with McManus. The fact that they brought in Will Lutz on a 3-year deal means that they felt that kicker was a massive, massive issue, and they need to address it somehow. We'll see if they do it in the draft, UFL season. Free agent-wise, Joey Sly is available. Greg Joseph is available. I'm not crazy about either of those options. I'd rather just bring McManus back at that point. The only option that I think would actually be an upgrade over McManus is Nick Folk, who is available. He's 39 years old. Yeah, he's on the older side of things, but extremely accurate kicker. Anything inside 50 yards, he is absolutely money. If the Jags don't sign Nick Folk, my guess is that they'll just draft a kicker or they'll wait until UFL season and see what happens. They already have Riley Patterson, so it's not like they have no kickers on the roster, but you want to upgrade a Patterson. They're not going into the season with Patterson. If they were going into the season with Patterson, they would not have signed Will Lutz to a 3-year deal or try to sign Will Lutz to a 3-year deal. So obviously kicker, a massive need for the Jaguars. We'll see if they address it on day two of free agency. Number two, one move I think the Jaguars will make, third down running back. I could absolutely see the Jaguars getting a third down running back. The running back market was phenomenal on day one. A lot of big-time players moving. Austin Eckler got moved to the Commanders. You saw Saquon Barkley going to the Eagles. Devin Singletary going to the Giants. A lot of running backs going across the board. Jags might wait until the second wave, third wave to potentially make a move there. But the Jaguars do need a third down pass catching back. You can't have ETN playing all 3 downs. Doug Peterson mentioned in the offseason how he doesn't want ETN playing as much. He had way too many carries last year. They want to reduce his workload, which is understandable. And right now, the only other running back on the roster, because Dearness Johnson's not there anymore, is Tank Bigsby. And he is not a pass-catching back in the slightest bit. Never has been. Probably never will be. Only had 1 catch last year. Never had more than 200 yards receiving during his time at Auburn in a single season. Nyheim Hines is available. Nyheim Hines is available. I'm not sure you sign him day 2 of free agency, but it's a move that could make a lot of sense. Pass catching back, bring him in on third down situations. We'll see if the Jags end up going for him. On top of that, Hines coming off a major injury. That seems to be the Trent Baalke special, get guys coming off of injuries. The other thing with the Jaguars, Calvin Ridley, what happens there. Obviously, the Jaguars made some moves at wide receiver yesterday. Gabe Davis coming in, Devin Duvernay. Granted, I don't really count him as a receiver. He's more of a return man. But Calvin Ridley is the big question mark that's left to be answered. If the Jags can get Ridley back, it would be a phenomenal free agency period. The Jaguars are not going to announce anything with Ridley today. The Jaguars will not announce anything with Calvin Ridley today, and the reason why is because any announcement made before 4 o'clock on Wednesday means that the Jaguars have to give the Falcons a second-round pick. If Ridley is not on the team by the time the new league year starts at 4 o'clock and the Jags re-sign him at 4:01, it's a third-round pick that they have to give up, not a second-round pick. And the Jags already have a third-round pick this year from the Jawan Taylor compensatory thing with Kansas City. So, in all likelihood, Calvin Ridley, if he does not get signed today by another team, the longer we go on and the longer that we're waiting, it's good news for Jacksonville. Now, granted, the New England Patriots are a player for Ridley, potentially, according to experts around the league. They got rid of Devontae Parker, so they freed up some cap space there. So they have a need at wide receiver. Not that Parker was any good with New England, but they did free up some cap space at wide receiver to potentially get Ridley. But we haven't heard anything concrete with Ridley. I thought he would be a Houston Texan, but the Texans are not making any big signings. They're not really breaking the bank. I thought they would be getting guys like Calvin Ridley, like Christian Wilkins, like Saquon Barkley. Not really breaking the bank. Their strategy is very surprising to me. So Calvin Ridley, the longer he goes unsigned, the longer we don't hear anything, the more good news it is for Jacksonville, and it increases the chances that he is coming back into the fold. So we'll see what happens with Calvin Ridley. Don't expect any announcement with Ridley in Jacksonville today, but if Ridley does not sign with the team today, and there's no rumblings of anything with the team today, the odds that he is back in Jacksonville, I would say, are over 50%. I'm not saying they're super high, but I would say over 50% if he is not signed today, because you also have to remember, the wide receiver market right now, it's very slow. The wide receiver market is not really moving a lot. As well as the running backs have gone off the board in free agency, wide receivers not so much. The Jags have made the only 2 wide receiver signings this entire free agency period through day one. One of them is Devin Duvernay, which again, I don't really count. I don't really count Duvernay. He's more of a return man. So really, the only free agent signing at wide receiver made by any team is Gabe Davis. So the market might not be there for Ridley, especially with a supposedly deep wide receiver draft. So the Jags could bring back Calvin Ridley. We'll see. It won't be announced today, but if he does not get signed today, very good chance that those number 0 jerseys might be useful next season and beyond. But what are your thoughts? What do you think the Jaguars will do on day 2 of free agency? Do you think they get a pass rusher like Josh from the Patriots? Do you think they address the kicker spot? Do you think they get that third down back? Do you think something happens with Calvin Ridley? Do you think they get some depth signings? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. What you think the Jags will do on day 2 of legal tampering. That's going to do it for this episode of JG9 News. Be sure you like and subscribe. It helps the channel out a lot. And be sure to check my main channel, Jaguar9, where we talk all things NFL history all the time. Until next time, this is Jaguar9 signing off. And as always, go Jags.